हेलो, आपकी जो वीडियो में कार है वो कितने की है?
I don't have a lot of money like these four. It's
What is a lot of money?
भाई साहब आपका टर्नओवर भी नहीं है 1400 तो इनके साथ बैठे हो आप.
That's why she was just smiling at me when I said financial independence.
Yeah.
What's that?
You know, in this third season, in 2 weeks, there is a deal which is already shown. That guy is not responding already.
Yeah.
Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the 1% Club Show. On today's episode, we have none other than the Sharks. Let's begin. All right. So the first question that I want, anybody can answer, right? Very interesting question. I don't know if you guys thought about this, but if you guys were your last 1 crore, what would you do to? Look, she's laughing at it. Right? It's a possibility, right?
क्या बोलते हैं भाई शुभ बोल भाई.
If you're last year 1 crore, what would you do to become rich?
How do you become rich? 1 करोड़ होगा, करोड़पति आदमी ऑलरेडी
Exactly,
पैसे वाला आदमी
यार.
है.
Right.
और पैसे बनाने के लिए क्यों सोचना
So
है?
you'll not do anything. You'll be.
जब तक करोड़पति है तब तक तो नहीं सोचना है. वो हजारों में आएगा फिर सोचेंगे.
हेलो, आपकी जो वीडियो में कार है वो कितने की है? इंट्रो वीडियो में ये बताओ थोड़ा.
ये तो अभी भी कह रहे हैं कि
Yeah, so if there was no business, I would have probably rebuilt the same company, but probably from the learnings from the past.
You?
I would, assuming I don't have this business, I would probably 1 crore means I would look at what is Amazon में trending, buy inventory of something which is, can be easily built as a product with reviews and, a few, there isn't enough competition there, and build an Amazon marketplace business, because I think right now you have the opportunity to service 19,000 pin codes in India sitting in one place with a very little working capital, and I would capitalize on that.
That's a very good answer. I like it. What?
मेरे केस में मैं पूछूंगा तो मैं बोलूँगा मैं पैसे से आपने पूछा 1 करोड़ का उससे कैसे पैसे बनाऊंगा. मैं पैसे से पैसे बनाने का मेरे पास एक्सपीरियंस नहीं है और मैं उस रूट से शायद जाना भी नहीं चाहूँगा. मेरे अकॉर्डिंग मैं कोई नया बिजनेस बनाना चाहूँगा. वन ऑफ द ऑप्शंस डेफिनेटली भी InShorts अगर नहीं होगा मेरे पास तो, बट कोई भी बिजनेस बनाना चाहूँगा. और मेरे अकॉर्डिंग से कोई भी बिजनेस बनाने के लिए मैं कस्टमर को समझ के ग्राउंड जीरो से स्टार्ट कर सकता हूँ. उसके लिए शायद मुझे 1 करोड़ की भी ज़रूरत नहीं पड़ेगी.
Namita?
I think I am a complete healthcare buff. They call me pharma for a reason. I'm obsessed with healthcare. I study healthcare for a living, and I think I'm most optimistic about healthcare and specifically health tech in India, because our issues, the 3 A's like I like to call it, the awareness, access and affordability. There's such a massive gap in our country that only health tech can bridge that gap. So that's where I would put my money.
Nice. And you, sir?
I would put my 1 crore in the 4 ventures they are starting.
I knew it would be the answer like this. I like it. And you just
25 lakhs each, 25 lakhs each, and I think that would be it. And then I'll judge them. No, but jokes apart, it's much easier to build a business now than it was like 10 years back. In terms of, if you prove something, then you get a lot of investors. I think today there are more angels than entrepreneurs also sometimes. Right? Understand the consumer, what their needs are, and find a niche and start something, and money will flow.
You guys have invested in a lot of startups on Shark Tank. Wanted to understand from you guys, beyond giving money, right? What are the value additions that you guys bring to the startups that you've invested in? Maybe you guys can give me like one story each of the value addition that you've added to your company. And you also had a recent exit, right? So you have a good story. But
Not bad.
you start, please.
Story, bro.
Yeah.
Great story.
Yeah, you start, please.
And more dollars.
Yeah, so I think Rare Planet is just fantastic because they own airports. That's their USP. And they started, when they came to pitch, they had 4 stores, and currently they have 50 stores across airports in India. In terms of helping him, I would discuss a lot with him on pricing, because I'm such a big shopaholic when it comes to all these heritage and these like really authentic stuff. I buy a lot of stuff as gifts as well, and I would find his pricing very off at times. So I think the most powwows we've had were over pricing. The second thing I helped him is connecting him to a lot of investors, because we know a lot of people from the investor community, and when they go and talk to those investors, they get a different perspective. Instagram page, I used to hate his Instagram page, and so I would keep bugging him that, because these guys taught me so much about D2C and storytelling.
Are you comfortable sharing the return on your investment with this investor?
So the partial
Already on
exit,
Instagram.
the partial exit that I took, and it's partial because I think he's going to really become big, and I want to be part of that journey, is 3.5 times valuation. So he's 5x revenue, And he got a 5x valuation, but I got a discounted secondary at 3.5x, which I was fine with.
Over what time period?
Over a year and a half.
Year and a half, you 3.5x your money. Very nice. Aman?
I'll give you a small example. जैसे ये Bummer था या Skippy था. All these companies, I feel they are at where we were like a few years back. So they need help on, as Namita rightly said, on sometimes on social, sometimes on investor connects, sometimes on what exactly should they do where they are. Because I got stuck at a time when I was at 100 crores probably revenue. And same now, Skippy is at the same place where he now needs to double down on marketing, double down on brand building, that he can't live out of the same season one Skippy legacy which people saw on television. He has to do something extra, right? Yeah. And how do we build brands? How do we build marketplace?
That's an interesting thought. Like, how do you get out from that 100 crore revenue mark and grow further?
Yeah, it's like 0 to 100, then 100 to 1000, and 1000 to probably 5000. So they're all in that space where we were.
And I want your answer to be more about what are the mistakes that you've seen your investee founders making, which you help them solve?
I think a lot of times at Shark Tank, we invest in a few companies that are in the 15 to 20 lakh phase, and they feel that they have product market fit, but they don't have. And
how would you know if a brand has product market fit or not?
So if you have product market fit, then when you as a shark unlock certain marketplaces for them and quick commerce, for instance, the products should fly without investing your performance marketing. If you have product market fit, my sense is in the sub 100 crore zone, your performance marketing cost should be less than 10% of revenue, just as a thumb rule. So first thing I've done with a lot of founders, even after they've done Shark Tank, what happens is that when their pitch airs, they get a lot of orders, and then we help them with putting them on Swiggy, Zepto. Zepto is our neighbor in the building, so I'm always putting them on Zepto, and then we measure, and many of them have like 10x jump. And then the first thing I do is that a lot of them are women consumers. I tell them, come to my office, there are 100 women here, test your product, get real feedback. What is the problem? If your consumer is somebody else, go read comments, but go back to the drawing board because you don't have it.
I think since this is a finance show, we should talk about it. A lot of people are very clueless when it comes to the count of investments, because what they don't realize is when we start doing a due diligence, there are multiple things that there's literally a lack of integrity on the part of founders. Yeah. There are many founders who have ghosted me. There are many founders where when we do the due diligence, the numbers they quoted at the tank, right from a GC to a sales, they're completely off, not just marginally, but substantially off. There are a lot of founders who have two companies. And as a finance person, you know that the biggest governance issue is related party transactions. Yeah. And then when we tell them, hey, you didn't reveal the fact that you're CEO of two companies, can you merge them? They refuse to do that. So what people don't realize is that they see us giving these offers and then they say, aapne deal nahi kiye. But what they don't realize is that there is a lot of integrity issues. I just mentioned 3 examples, which is why the count goes down substantially. So I think this is one thing that everyone who's following Shark Tank must be aware of, that there's a margin between what's revealed at the tank versus what really comes out in the due diligence.
In this third season, in 2 weeks, there is a deal which is already shown. That guy is not responding already.
Yeah.
What also happens, which is why some of them don't go through, is that once they air, they get better deals outside. Yeah. So then they prefer to go with those. So, and it's at the end of the day.
So they're using Shark Tank.
I understand where an entrepreneur is coming from, where they're optimizing for valuation. It feels unfair, but you have to. I mean, that's the rules of the game.
Because we're talking about finances, now let's talk about how you guys manage your own finances.
Almost 40 to 50% is startups.
Okay. Wow.
So because I feel like
40 to 50% of
cash,
your wealth is startups.
No. Outside of OYO, whatever
OYO
cash
so like
is
$1 billion outside, 45% of that is in startups. So a lot of money for Shark Tank.
Wow.
No, so
yeah, we're seeing that.
No, but that's
watch his investments.
No, but I had a family office before I came to Shark Tank where we were making some investments. Okay. So I think that's one. Rest of the 50% is probably, let's say 30% of that is in absolute terms, not relative. 30% of that would be equity, 15% would be debt, and 5% would be gold.
But how much percent of your money is in company versus personal? Like, how do you decide how much should be in the business, how much should be personal?
No, look, I think I have.
Because a lot of founders make this mistake of going all in also.
Yeah.
Right? And that's also risky.
No, first off, I think as an entrepreneur, I am in that cohort of going all in. So I have gone all in. But I think that said, over the years, there has been some liquidity purely by means of compensation and bonuses and few other things that got accumulated.
Yeah.
And I, of course, opportunistically still try to buy more shares of OYO if I get access to them at interesting prices. But outside of that, I think there's a small corpus which I have, put between startups because I feel like there's so much to learn, right? Like you come to the Shark Tank, in a full day, I almost feel like it's like mental exercise because you go from one pitch, which is a completely different industry, to a completely different pitch, and you have to make a decision of investing in them.
So how long are these days?
It was a long days. Typically would start at 9 in the morning if everybody is on time, but goes on till like 9 or 10 in the evening or probably longer. So it's a long
really?
Day. Yeah.
9 or 10 in the
hours,
evening?
In the evening.
15 hours a day
It's 12 to
shoot if you
15
count
hours
start to
straight.
end.
Wow.
Right? And you're literally going one pitch to another. So that's one. I think the second is, I think equity, I truly believe in the India story. I still have friends who say that I put my money in FD. So I say whichever company you're putting FD in, the bank, choose those banks and invest in Bank Nifty or the same thing, and you'll get substantially better return.
What about you?
I feel that in the next 30, 40 years, the biggest compounding of my wealth will be whatever I've done in sugar, because that I know. Everything else,
but
there are
assuming that
externalities.
you don't have a house, you don't have a vehicle,
Yeah.
you've just gotten married,
Yeah.
would you still go all in?
Where you're coming from is basically saying if the basics are not taken care of.
Yeah.
I think where Vineeta is coming from is once the basics are taken care of, then it is only about compounding.
Yeah.
So I think, until the basics are taken care of course, you should focus on that. But
Yeah.
once you're done with the basics, then you should put everything in
Go all
your
in.
own story.
Azhar, what do you think?
आई थिंक मेरे पास जितने भी कैपिटल होगा उसका एक डेफिनेटली एक बड़ा चंक तो InShorts में ही होगा. उसके आउटसाइड भी अगर मेरे पास कुछ चंक होगा तो वो भी शायद मैं स्टार्टअप्स पे ही लगाना चाहूँगा, क्योंकि बाई वर्चुअली शायद हम लोग वो ब्रीड ही है. तो ये क्वेश्चन किसको आप आस्क कर रहे हैं उससे भी बहुत ज़्यादा फर्क पड़ रहा होगा. वो वाले एंगल को मैं लूँगा मतलब. और एक दूसरा एंगल वही मैं उस पर भी ऐड करना चाहूँगा कि ऑब्वियसली हम सबका जो बेसिक नीड की आप बात कर रहे हैं वो वेल टेकन केयर ऑफ है. तो उसके बाद तो हम कॉन्सेंट्रेटेड ही एफर्ट मारना चाहेंगे.
Makes sense. Namita, what about you? I'm sure you have a family office.
We do, and now I don't know if you know, but we're going public. So we filed our DRHP. We're doing road shows in March and IPOs coming up in June. So hopefully the family office will be slightly larger.
And you need to do a family and friends round.
Family and friends round.
Yeah. We need some allocation before IPO.
Yeah, for sure.
Pre-IPO.
Pre-IPO.
It's going to be an IPO to definitely watch out for. And no bias here. I think for me personally, everything outside of Emcure is a combination of startups, Shark Tank, and things related to Shark Tank takes up a lot of money, and then there's a lot of equity because what happens, Sharan, is when you invest in companies, specifically equity across industries, you read up on them.
What about you, Aman? How do you invest your money?
I invest, I don't have a lot of money like these four, right? So,
What is a lot of money?
First, I'll answer your first question and then go to your second question. So, if you ask me, I didn't have money till before 2 years back. I got a secondary exit done last year, and before that, my wife was working, and now she's not working. So our house used to be run out of her money. Then I got a lot of money, decent money, when the secondary happened, and that's when I started becoming an investor. In fact, the first before Shark Tank season 1, I had only 3 deals I had done in my life, and that too was piggy banking on investors like these who had already invested. I just said, just put my 5 lakh, 10 lakh, and just learning how to invest. But actual learning happened on season 1 when I was not an investor, and these the others were investors, and I learned from them. But season 2 and season 3, I think they learned a lot from me on how to invest. But sorry, jokes apart. For me, I invested in real estate in Gurgaon, and that has given me the best results for some reason. Financial returns also, with the Sensex at 73,000 is giving a good return.
Yeah.
In my first season, if a Skippy does well, the total money I invested in season 1 will come back from one deal.
Wow.
So if we I've invested in season 1 20 companies, one breakthrough, probably a Skippy or a Let's Try or a banana chips for me, will give me more money than the whole season. So I'm just saying, that's how we take risks.
So, for example, in season 1, there were 17 companies I invested. I'm very clear that, like Aman said, there are 3 companies that are going to do well, and
they will
the
give us
other
money
14
more
are
than-
not going to do well. So that's just
the angel investing formula.
that's the mindset we go in. That's the mindset we go in with. So as long
Yeah.
as you have clarity of that, you're
Yeah. Wanted to understand from you guys, how do you evaluate what is a good investment in Shark Tank? Like, what do you look at? Like, is it more about the founder? Is it more about the numbers? You know, you talked about IRR and all of that. So how do you evaluate a good business on Shark Tank? Because it also help our audience to know that this is what I need to be a good entrepreneur or be a good founder.
Yeah, look, I think most of the entrepreneurs who come to the tank are very early stage companies, right? They're just getting started. So to be able to identify the business model, numbers, etc., that will only be an indication. You can't do like a standard private equity style maths of past financial, future financial. You have to have high conviction in the entrepreneur.
So it's like a gut feeling.
Your gut feeling where you believe that the business will go through highs and lows, but the entrepreneur knows their business, their customers, their financials so well that they'll figure it out. I think in Hindi I would often say that मैं घोड़े से ज़्यादा jockey पे invest करता हूँ, just basically the person who
Who's riding
is
the
the
horse.
person driving the ship rather than the ship itself, because the ship can have challenges.
I think everybody's going to say founders because that is the number one thing. But I mean, so I'm going to go beyond that. I think 2 things for me. Firstly, I always, tell my team also that numbers is my love language. So, if you don't know your numbers well, that's a big turn off. So knowing your own numbers.
Like, what are the numbers that you're most interested in apart from sales?
Fundamentals like gross margin, because you could be making losses, but if you have gross margin, then you can tip to the other side by like tweaking your marketing spend, right? Similarly, just understanding of like things like repeat percentages, like so you're looking at the right metrics, because if you're not even looking at the right metrics, I can't gauge in 30 minutes whether your product market fit is done or not. You have to tell me that, right? But if you don't know the numbers, how do I take that?
Got it. Azhar?
आई थिंक मैं एक ही नंबर पे चीज़ों को जज करने की कोशिश करता हूँ बियॉन्ड डेफिनेटली. अगर वो नंबर अवेलेबल है तो उस नंबर पे नहीं है तो काफ़ी सारे और चीज़ों पे जज करेंगे. बट अगर एक नंबर अवेलेबल है और जो मुझे लगता है किसी भी बिजनेस का बहुत अर्ली डेज में वो नंबर मिल जाता है, वो उसका रिपीट यूज़ केस. मेरे कस्टमर्स जिन्होंने मुझे पहली बार यूज़ किया उन्होंने दूसरी बार या तीसरी बार या चौथी बार यूज़ किया कि नहीं. अगर रिपीटेबिलिटी है तो बिजनेस बनेगा, नहीं है तो नहीं बनेगा, इर्रेस्पेक्टिव ऑफ एवरीथिंग एल्स. जो मेरा ब्रॉडर बिलीफ है, बेसिकली भले ही मुझे 5 लोगों ने ही यूज़ किया, बट अगर वो कंटिन्यूसली कर रहे हैं तो फिर मार्केट यहाँ से बड़ा करने का दिमाग डेफिनेटली हम लगा सकते. तो ये मेरा सबसे कोर मेट्रिक होता है. अब ये रिपीटेबिलिटी के लिए आपका प्रोडक्ट मार्केट फिट से लेके फाउंडर कितना अच्छा है, क्या प्रॉब्लम सॉल्व कर रहा है, उन सब का रिजल्ट ये रिपीटेबिलिटी है बेसिकली लेंगे तो.
Namita?
So Sharan, when I joined my father's company about 15 years back, we were 400 crores. We're about 7,000 crores now global and 20+% EBITDA, right? So I have seen scale in my career at Emcure. And I've seen what it takes to scale. So the first metric I look at is this business capable of scaling? And like Vineeta said, that can happen if there's a very attractive TAM. And the second is if you have a very strong USP, a differentiator. So these are the 2 specific things that I look for, because if they don't scale, I'm not going to get my exit, because as an investor, you get your exit in 3 scenarios: if they go public, if they have a secondary, or they get acquired. And none of these are going to happen if you don't scale. So for me, scalability and looking through that Emcure lens that I bring, that can they scale through complexity, is the number one thing I look at.
So for me, profitability, ROI driven marketing, ROI driven sales, ROI driven financing, ROI driven business mindset is very important. Public markets has taught us a lot. Look at how Zomato has proven that how they are performing now, and with the profits coming out, look how market is rewarding them, and how market was the one which bashed them when they were not profitable, right? So I think now realization is there in a lot of founders and entrepreneurs.
So just one last thing, just open-ended question. One of the biggest drivers of success is the people that you surround yourself with and how you network. Yeah. Now, of course, you guys have fantastic personal brands. Anybody will reach out. Anybody you send a message to, you'll get a reply. But for somebody who is starting out and doesn't know anybody, how do I get that mentor? Or how do I get that right person to surround myself with, so that I also have that josh?
Come to Shark Tank.
That's hard also, no?
No, it's not hard.
It's harder than Harvard.
If you got a good business, come find mentors at Shark Tank. They are people who are ready to invest in you.
No, look, I think one of them is, of course, Shark Tank is probably the best medium because you get many things.
Yeah, apart from founders, you get the marketing, you get money, you get...
You get quite a
What
few
is the
things.
chance of success? Application?
No, that's one, but I think I'll give you the more broader application.
Yeah.
So when I was starting, there are two things I would do. I would make a list of people I should reach out, and I would write an email saying, this is what I'm doing. I think this is going to be very big, but I need 19 minutes of your time. And that was like the catchphrase. Hopefully some people will respond. Out of 100 people, only 3 or 4 would respond. And you'd reach out to them, and out of that, hopefully 1 or 2 people will introduce you to other people. So you have to start somewhere.
That's how you did it?
That's how I did it. So to start is the hardest, but once you get the first few people, then the networks develop.
But
You'll get it
people
in your
don't
hands.
respond generally to cold emails, always. So it is, you should always look for companies that are slightly ahead of your stage, because you can also find the conversations relatable. So I think that you shouldn't always, everybody starts with saying that if I want to invest, I want Warren Buffett as my mentor. ऐसे नहीं होता है.
बट जैसे मैं देखता हूँ, मुझे लगता है आज के रेट पे मुझे किसी भी पर्सन से सीखना है तो शायद मुझे मिलने की क्यों ज़रूरत है. मैं हर पर्सन का यूट्यूब पे मुझे वीडियोस अवेलेबल है. मुझे दिखता है जेफ बेजोस से लेकर के मैं क्या कहते हैं, अगर इंडिया किसी भी बड़े एंटरप्रेन्योर्स को ले लेते हैं, उसकी भी हर कोई आपको कहीं ना कहीं मिल, सचिन वंसल से ले लीजिए, आप किसी की भी का नाम उठाइए, आप उनकी लर्निंग्स, उनके थॉट्स को आप यूट्यूब पे देख के सीख सकते हैं. तो आप सब किसी के थॉट्स समझ सकते हैं, आप उससे लर्न घर पे बैठे कर सकते हैं. जैसे मैं आपकी भी वीडियोस देखता हूँ रेगुलरली.
Okay, guys, that brings us to the end of this episode. Very excited to put this out, obviously.
Thank you.
And thank you so much for your time.